Thank you. We've got a full house tonight. Thank you for everyone who's joining us this evening here in the board office, as well as those watching at home. I am Lauren Christensen, the board president. I'm going to ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Sidhu.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Anupam Chugsadhu.
Patty McQueen, thanks for being here tonight.
I'm Cheryl Picard, and welcome everybody.
Amina Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, our student co-chairs, please.
Good to see you all. Josh Patterson, Student Voice and Action Co-Chair, and Plymouth Junior.
Hi everyone, Saeed Pawar, Student Voice and Action Co-Chair and Senior at Canton High School.
Okay, great, thank you. Dr. Merritt, can you introduce yourself and the team?
Good evening and welcome, Superintendent Merritt. I am glad to see everyone here this evening with this beautiful warm weather that we're having, and you're choosing to spend your evening with us. I feel very fortunate. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by introducing Ms. Diane Robertson, my executive assistant, who I am so thankful and grateful for being here to capture all of our minutes, and so for our community that's not able to be here. Also, Mr. John Krieger. John here, taking care of all of our technology needs, and that's the voice that you hear all of the time over our radio channels. And he's such just a valuable part of the team. So just want to thank him for being here. Ask the remaining members of the team to introduce themselves to you.
Thank you, Dr. Merritt. Kurt Tiskowitz, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. Welcome.
Good evening. Jill Minnick. I serve as Chief Finance and Operations Officer. Welcome.
Good evening. Beth Rail, Chief Academic and Innovation Officer. It's very nice to see you tonight.
Welcome, everyone. Liz Vartanian-Gibbs, Assistant Superintendent, Student and Family Engagement.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. All right, we're moving on to the adoption of the agenda and the approval of the consent agenda. This is action item number 25-10-24. Can I please have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the agenda, approve the consent agenda, action item number 25-10-24.
Can I please have a second? Okay, so it was moved by Member Sidhu and seconded by Member Picard. Dr. Merritt, can you take us through the agenda?
Thank you, President Christensen. This evening, our consent agenda consists of human resources transactions since our last time together. We have one new champion for hire for your consideration this evening, as well as leaves of absences. We also have the approval of the minutes from the special meeting that was on October the 8th, 2024, and the regular meeting minutes from October the 8th, 2024. Finally, we have the final reading of policy 9150, and that is about school visitors combined.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call for the vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and I see Mr. Madoon is not here, so it looks like Ms. Rail will be taking us through HR.
Yep. So I'll be pinch hitting for HR tonight. Tonight we have a new hire, Diane Fournier, and I'm hopefully I say your last name correctly. Diane is joining us as the MTSS Academic Instructional Support Teacher at Starkweather Academy. She comes to us with a bachelor's from University of Michigan, a master's from Eastern Michigan University, and 28 years of experience. So welcome to our district. Thank you for choosing us. And that is it for human resources. And if you'll come visit me out in the hall, I have a little something for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we are on to celebrating success, and we have Member Sidhu presenting.
Thank you for this honor, because it is always an honor to be a part of celebrating success. Good evening. Tonight, the Board of Education is proud to recognize the outstanding contributions of one of our dedicated staff members and exceptional parent volunteers. We will present the Extra Miler Award to Jordan Fisher, a Media Center paraprofessional at Tonda Elementary School, and a VIP awards to Steve and Gretchen Harrington. Let's begin with Jordan Fisher. Can Jordan come up, please? Jordan has worked passionately to care for our garden spaces, often spending evenings and weekends nurturing these areas. She has also collaborated with Plymouth pollinators to develop a plan for rain and large pollinator garden. Jordan's commitment to beautifying Tonda Elementary is commendable, and the community profoundly appreciates her dedication to the environment. Jordan consistently seeks for innovative ideas and actively participates in school activities, demonstrating her investment in our school community. She is a cheerleader for Tonda Elementary, fostering a positive and nurturing environment for students, staff, and families. We are incredibly fortunate to have her. Now I would like to highlight Steve and Gretchen Harrington. Are they here? Come on up. Steve and Gretchen tirelessly support the Tonda school community by providing our students opportunities to engage in sports, including Tonda flag football in the fall and Tonda baseball in the spring. They take on essential tasks of maintaining the school grounds and organizing these leagues from start to finish, including registration, coaching, and officiating. Many of our students would miss out on these valuable experiences without their dedication. As parents of 4 children in the district, 2 at Tonda, 1 at Pioneer, and 1 at Salem High School, Steve and Gretchen are deeply involved in their children's school activities. Their commitment to improving our district and enriching school community makes Tonda a better place for everyone. At this time, I would like to invite Dave Turrell, principal of Tonda Elementary School, to share his thoughts on the remarkable contributions of Jordan, Steve, and Gretchen.
Thank you. It's actually quite difficult to kind of follow everything that's already been said because I guess I just can't say enough about these 2 groups of people here. The Harrington family, they provide access and support to lots of students who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to engage in sports activities this way. And the fact that it's provided directly to our school community is just outstanding. And Jordan, if you've ever driven by Tonda on a Saturday, you've seen her in our gardens. We now have 2 rain gardens. We have Jordan, help me out, I'm blanking. We have the Monarch Way Station, our butterfly garden, and we're also working on creating a pollinator garden, a very large one next year as well. All of that not only beautifies our school and our school community, but brings our community together for projects that directly support our school and our students. So I just really can't say thank you enough. And just have to mention how profoundly lucky I am to be a part of a school that has such families that are willing to invest so much in the school community. Thank you so much.
I wish you wouldn't have left. Come back up, please, because we have awards for you. The kids can come up. Yes, please, come on up. Come on up. I love your t-shirts. On behalf of the Board of Education, I am thrilled to present the Mary Beth Carroll Extra Miler Award to Jordan Fisher and VIP awards to Steve and Gretchen Harrington. These awards celebrate their extraordinary dedication to enhancing the environment for students and staff at Plymouth Canton Community Schools. Thank you for being part of our village. You now have the opportunity to share a few other things. So would any of you like to say anything, a few words?
I have it. You guys go ahead. No, I have it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be able to give back to the community. Tonda is such an amazing community to belong to be a part of. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to give back and experience the joy that the children receive from the opportunities they have. Thank you very much.
Okay, I can attest for these two individuals. These are amazing parents. We can always count on them to pick up the slack on so many different things, and I thank you guys so much for everything that you have done for Tonda. So I just want to express my sincere thanks for this nomination. It was completely unexpected. I will not take up a lot of time. I have a feeling it's going to be a long meeting. I just do want to recognize that I started at Tonda 4 years ago. I'm a parent of students who've been at the district for 4 years, or for 7 years, I'm so sorry. And I fell in love with the district. And it's not just because of the people who are in the district, it is our leaders. I do, and I'm not saying this as an employee, I'm saying this as a parent. Thank you. Thank you for taking care of our kids. I really do appreciate it. So currently I'm a Wild Ones of Wayne County School Garden Committee Chair. So I would love to invite you to come see our Tonda Gardens. And we also have 2 other wonderful native gardens in our school district at Field Elementary and at East Middle School. One is done by Marie Everett at East Middle School. It's remarkable. And Field Elementary was done by Katie Weeks-Bedone. So I would love to invite you to those gardens as well. So I was wondering, at some time we can have a conversation and see what we can do to better our green spaces within the district. Okay, thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Congratulations to all of you on this well-deserved recognition. Please accompany Dr. Liz Vartanian Gibbs in the hallway for some photos. And yes, I will be coming to visit the gardens.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are moving on now to board committee reports and action. First up is the president's report. I do have a few updates that I'd like to share with everyone. I mentioned at our last meeting that there was a membership meeting at Wayne RESA for the Wayne County Association of School Boards. Essentially, all school board members in Wayne County were invited to this membership meeting. A few of us did attend, our schedules did allow. So I know VP McCoyne, Member Sadhu, and myself were there. There were a few things on the agenda that evening that I just want to highlight for everyone. We did talk about the upcoming Wayne RESA Regional Enhancement Millage renewal that is on the November 5th ballot. This is a funding source that is available to the district if it is passed. It's a zero increase millage slated for implementation over the years of 2028 through 2034. If you want to find more information about what that's actually used for, I believe we have it posted on our district website, but you can also find some information on Wayne RESA's website, which is resa.net/millage. We also received a few legislative updates, as well as had a legislative priority work session where we broke out into small groups to talk about issues that are facing our district and how we can maybe impact legislation to improve education in the state of Michigan. So it was a great meeting, and I encourage all my fellow board members to attend whenever you get a chance. I do want to open that up to either VP McCoyne or Member Sadhu to add anything to that.
No, you covered it.
Good deal?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and that actually, short and sweet, that concludes my president's report this evening. Okay, so now we are moving on to Student Performance and Achievement Committee with Member Sadhu.
Thank you, President Christensen. We haven't met since our last meeting, but I did give an update about some of the items that we will see on today's agenda. And our next meeting is Wednesday, and it's not November 26th.
November 6th.
Oh, I'm looking at the next line. Our next meeting is Wednesday, November 6th, here in this room at 5 p.m. Please join us.
Thank you. Okay, on to Policy Committee with VP McCoyne.
So we did not meet tonight. Mr. Maydoun was not able to meet. And we had a closed session starting at 6:15. So the next meeting is Tuesday, November 26th, which is a month from today. Yeah, a month from today, and it is in the collaboration space at 5:30.
Great. Okay, on to Finance and Operations Committee. Treasurer Kehoe cannot make it today. I'm going to pinch hit for him, and I'm going to ask for Ms. Minnick to correct me if I'm wrong on anything here. But what was covered on Thursday's meeting was the audit for our fiscal year end, June 30th, 2024, by Plant Moran, which is actually on the agenda this evening. We also had a 2020 bond bid package number EL for Fair and Elementary and bond budget update. There was a discussion around the replacement of the rooftop units at Canton High School, which is also on the agenda this evening. And there was an item around the summer tax levy reminder. Did I miss anything?
No, thank you. Very comprehensive and accurate. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is, oh shoot, I lost my place. Our next meeting is November 7th at 5 p.m. in this room, so we hope you can join. On to Student Voice and Action Committee with Josh and Saeed.
Hello, everyone. Last night's meeting, SVA meeting, was a very busy one where we welcomed our new SVA members who this was their first meeting, and then tried some amazing food samples from the P-CCS Food and Nutrition Services. We had an opportunity to try chicken patties and chicken nuggets and then provide feedback on those 2 food items.
And then next we had a presentation on mental health and wellness from Miss Kathy Grotis, the P-CCS mental health manager and psychologist, alongside Dr. Vartanian Gibbs, the assistant superintendent of student and family engagement, was shared. And on top of that, we worked to renew and secure SVA members on the other board committees.
Our next meeting is on November 18th in the Discovery Auditoria, and it's starting at 4:30.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, on to administrative reports and recommendations. Dr. Merritt.
Thank you, President Christensen. I will be brief this evening, but I want to also continue to talk about that subject of the enhancement millage, recognizing that this will be our last meeting before the general election on November the 5th. And so just wanting to again emphasize the factual information about this millage renewal. This truly does provide critical funding for all school districts in Wayne County, including the public school academies as well. For Plymouth Canton, it represents about $6 million a year. We have been able to utilize that for staffing to continue to support our career technical education programs, our safety and security, which is just an essential function for our students, making sure that we're keeping our students and our staff safe. Maintaining our class sizes, just so many ways that we can continue to enhance the environment here. When we think about this renewal, just for the information, again, it is a renewal, not a new tax. It was initially passed in 2016, came out for another renewal in 2024. Want to just emphasize the reason or the why they're coming out right now. You can only by law come out for this millage renewal in even years. And so by tacking this on to the 2026 general election, that's you don't have to pay for a special election, and in the event that it is not successful, which we're going to believe it's going forward, that would give another opportunity in 2028, because this would expire in 2028, and at that point any ask would be for a new tax or an increase. And so it's again, I think, important to note that 100%, even though this is a Wayne-Risa millage, 100% goes to local school districts and public school academies. Again, it's a pass-through, it's a per pupil allocation, so it's $360 per pupil for every student in Wayne County. We always talk about ballot fatigue. So with that ballot, there's a lot on the ballot. You have to flip over to the back, and I believe it's at the bottom of the ballot. So maybe read from the bottom up on the back, answer your ballot that way. But again, just wanted to ensure that everybody has this factual information. Again, you can find the information on our website, and if you have any questions, please feel free to call. This evening, I have the pleasure of celebrating our principals, and we've been celebrating them all month long because this is National Principals Appreciation Month. And we've been doing a little social media push, and I've heard some say, hey, what about the rest of our principals? Well, we have 23 buildings and the virtual academy as well, so we have to sprinkle a few each day, but really just wanting to take this opportunity, celebrate them every single day, but through this month to really just elevate and amplify the work that they do on behalf of our students and our staff every day. When you think about the indicator of student success, they are right there with the teachers. Behind teachers are number one, and our building principals are right there with them for student success, making sure that students have what they need to feel safe and included and welcome and have the ability to thrive here in our district. So we are so appreciative of you. We have many of our elementary principals here this evening. And again, we take this month to celebrate you, but we celebrate you each and every day. And we're grateful for you for being a part of our P-CCS community. So thank you. Tonight, I also want to highlight the efforts of our Director of School Safety and Security, Director Joshua Meyer, his entire team. We had the opportunity to be highlighted on WDIV last week for the advanced investments that we've had in security. Really, it was a great segment. They had some time to spend in our Security Operations Center. They had an opportunity to meet Echo, which Echo was very excited to be there and meet. And then we talked the next day. They had us come into the studio to talk about funding. So we have these incredible investments. We've utilized this enhancement millage, our ESSER funds, the state grants 31AA to really be able to get out in front of what it really takes to keep our students and our staff safe, but really being able to talk with our legislators about how do we sustain this funding moving forward, because we know it's not just about safety and security and technology, but it's about the human intelligence behind even some of the AI that we're using in our technology as well. It's also about mental health, and we can't avoid talking about that. So I'm very proud and thankful to our board for the support of increased school psychologists and counselors and social workers and nurses, because those are the people that are trusted adults that our students can go to as they're dealing with any challenges, and also connecting students to resources across the community. And so again, we're incredibly proud of our security team, the proactive approach that we've taken in terms of what we say is a value or a commitment here in Plymouth Canton. We say our #1 priority is the safety of students and staff. And so not just lip service, but being able to put our finances behind that with our long-term plan and being recognized, I think is something that we're really proud of and wanted to highlight that. Finally, it's that time of year. I just wanted to give a little shout out to our Rock Cafe. We want to spotlight our Rock Cafe. They've been rocking meals since 1972, and they opened for the year last week. This cafe is entirely run by students in the program who do everything from setting the restaurant's menu to preparing and serving hundreds of meals each year. And all of this outstanding work is done under the guidance of Chef Diana Woodward, Polly Brown, and Andy Lehman. So the Rock Cafe is open to the public, and I definitely would encourage everyone to take some time to enjoy a meal there and see this amazing program and our amazing students for yourself. That ends my report this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Merritt. Okay, on to Finance and Operations with Ms. Minnick.
Thank you, President Christensen. This evening we have the opportunity to present to you the results of the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024, results of the audit. By law, every school district, public school district in the state of Michigan is required to have an external audit. So with us this evening, we have our audit team, our leaders from our external audit firm, Plant Moran. So we have Jeff Higgins, partner with the firm, and Renee Esper, who led our day-to-day as audit manager through that process. So with that, I'll turn that over to you for a presentation of those audit results and a financial statement overview.
Thank you, and good evening.
Good evening.
So there's actually 3 documents that come out of the audit process. So as it was mentioned, we're here to talk about the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2024. So there's a financial report with supplemental information, which represents the actual audited financial statements of the district. There's a separate federal award supplemental information report, which represents our separate audit for the federal programs that are administered by the district. And then finally, there's the report to the Board of Education, which provides some insight and background on the audit process itself. There we go. So it's our job as the district's independent auditors to provide an opinion on the district's financial statements. In order for us to render that opinion, we're required to perform an audit that's in accordance with auditing standards that are generally accepted in the United States of America, require us to perform various tests and procedures, really dig deep, look at the numbers, look at the disclosures, the internal controls, a whole separate set of activities we have to perform in order to be able to render that opinion. And based on the results of those procedures, I'm happy to report here tonight that we've rendered what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion on the district's financial statements. That would be the highest level of assurance that we can provide on a set of financial statements. Effectively, in our opinion, the financial statements do represent in all material respects the financial results of the districts and are in accordance with generally required accounting principles. So along with that, we also then take a look at some of the other, to provide some insight in the audit process itself. So I'm happy to report that as part of that audit process, we encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. There was no disagreements with management. We had no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no findings, and really no fraud, illegal acts were identified. So all in all, it was a very clean audit process. So again, at a high level summary, unmodified or clean audit opinion with a very clean audit process. And with that, we will take a look at some of the financial highlights for the year ended June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Alrighty, so to start off here, this first slide summarizes the district's influx of federal emergency relief funding over the past few years as a result of COVID-19. So this is all since 2020. The individual COVID-related grants are listed on the left-hand side, and then the amounts in teal, that's the total awarded amount, and then the amounts in orange represent the expenditures to date through June 30th, 2024. The funding is a large component of what the district has received over the last few years, as you can see, totaling about $38.4 million. And majority has been spent as of June 30th, 2024, with the remaining spent as of September 30th, 2024, which is all in line with the timeline for the required spend. Alrighty, and then this slide here, so this shows a summary of the fiscal year financials. This is a condensed balance sheet for the governmental funds, which is a snapshot in time as of June 30th, 2024, of the assets and liabilities of the district by each fund. So the first column is the district's primary operating fund, that's the general fund, which, as you can see, that first line there had total assets of about $75.8 million. That's primarily made up of cash and investments, and then state aid receivables that's received in July and August. And then the next line down there is the total liabilities of the general fund at about $26.6 million, and that's primarily related to accrued payroll, benefits, and taxes. And then the difference between your assets and liabilities is your remaining fund balance of $49.2 million. And then your next column, the special revenue funds, and that's primarily funded projects, food service, and student activities. And these funds are used to account for proceeds of specific revenue sources that are restricted or committed for specific purposes. And then you have the next column there, the debt service funds. So those are used to record taxes and other receipts for the payment of interest and principal on outstanding bonds. And then last column there, you have your capital projects funds, which those continue to track the bond issuances and spends primarily related to the 2023 and 2020 bond outstanding. All right, and then this slide here is similar. It shows a summary by fund now of the revenues and expenditures, and then as a result, the change in fund balance for the full 2024 fiscal year. So your first column, you can see your general fund had an increase in fund balance of about $7.2 million towards the middle there. And that resulted in a remaining fund balance of $49.2 million at June 30th, 2024. And then the remaining columns show a summary of the revenue and spend down for those specific funds for all those sources and uses mentioned on the previous slide. All right, and then moving on. So this slide and majority of the slides going forward are focused on the general fund, as this is the main operating fund of the district. So this slide takes that total revenue we would have saw on the previous slide for the general fund which was about 219.8 million, and breaks it out by source. So as you can see, the teal there, that's the district's primary source of revenue, which is the foundation allowance. That's driven by pupil count. And then you can see the next largest in the orange there is the MIPSR's cost support. And that's money that's received from the state that the district doesn't have much control over, that gets turned around and paid right back to the retirement system. That's non-discretionary revenue. And then, so overall from a funding perspective, you can see that year over year district continue to depend highly on these state and local dollars. Okay, and then this slide takes that foundation allowance and shows a historical look at the per pupil rate, starting with the 2015 school year through the 2024 school year. And this adds in the effects of inflation. So the inflation line's at the top there, and that's based on an average inflation over a 10-year period of 2.7%. So that shows that the school district's per pupil funding has continued to not keep up with the rate of inflation. So just to put that in perspective, so if the per pupil funding increased by the rate of inflation, the district would receive that $11,300 per pupil for fiscal year 24. And that would equate to about $28 million in additional revenue in 2024. But as you can see, the bar graph below, the district lands at that $9,608 per pupil. All right, and then similarly here, so this looks at overall student enrollment, as that's continued to be a main driver of revenue for the district. So this slide shows your enrollment over the past 5 school years, and then budgeted count for the 2025 school year, which that was adopted in the June 2024 budget. And then this is compared to all districts, which would include local and school academies as well. And that also their forecasted amount for 2025. So as you can see, there continues to be that decrease year over year all around at the state level as well, with another budgeted decrease for 2025. All right, and then this slide here is just another breakdown of a main revenue source, the enhancement millage that was discussed earlier. That's passed through from Rain RESA. So as you can see, historically totaled about $7 million each year from 2019 there to 2022. And then beginning in 2023, you can see that drop, and that's due to charters now being included in the regulations and allocations as well. So as it was mentioned, the enhancement millage was approved in 2016 for 6 years, and then was renewed again for another 6 years in 2028 through 2028. Alrighty.
Next, we're going to take a look at the expenditures for the general fund for the year ended June 30th, 2024. You can see that instruction and other instructional-related activities accounted for about 79% of the expenditures for the year. The next largest component then would be operations and maintenance, just under 10%, and the largest component of the operation maintenance would be utility expenses at the various buildings. Then you had transportation costs at 5%, and then 4% was general business and central support costs, which would include things like taxes, insurance, legal fees, other types of fees like that. But effectively what this shows is that 94% of the costs incurred in the general fund are either for teaching kids, maintaining the buildings to teach the kids in, or getting the kids back and forth to school. This then also looks at expenditures, but this time by object versus the last slide, which was by function. So as you can see, the largest expenditure would be salaries and fringe benefits of about 83%. Being a service organization, you would obviously expect that the vast majority of expenditures would be salaries and benefits. And it is worth noting that purchase services would include personnel, outsourced personnel for transportation, custodial subs, and so forth. So even in that purchase services number, there is a significant component of payroll-related costs being incurred. But again, you have 83% salaries and fringe benefits, about 12% purchase services, and supplies and materials at about 4.5%. which would be mostly fuels, textbooks, utilities, those types of expenditures. One other significant portion of the expenditure budget that we did want to just quickly touch upon is employer retirement contributions. So you can see the 5-year history here for the retirement contributions. In 2024 is roughly $55.5 million, of which $22.7 million was actually paid for through the state as part of the unfunded actuarial accrued liability. So that, again, that's money that comes in from the state. You turn right back around and put it into the MIPSR system to help deal with some of the underfunding within the MIPSR system. But again, these are expenditures that the district really has no control over. You have to pay in the required allocations to fund the retirement liability, but effectively you have $55 million of your budget that is going to retirement obligations. And this would just be expenditures for already retired teachers. So again, it's just one of those components of the budget that you don't have a lot of control over, but that you are forced to deal with and have the funds available to pay in. So the result of the assets revenues and expenditures, as Renee mentioned, is you added about $7 million to your fund balance. So fund balance effectively represents the accumulated results of all past year's general fund activity. It's essentially the financial reserves of the general fund. It's an important metric as it does provide, fund balance provides a way to deal with unforeseen financial uncertainties. So if you have revenue shortfalls or you have unanticipated expenditures, it just helps mitigate those financial surprises that might occur from year to year. So you can see the 5-year history of the fund balance. Again, we did add another $7 million this last year to the fund balance. You can see the history here. It has gone up quite a bit from 2020, and that would be consistent with what we've seen across all districts. Essentially, when the pandemic hit, there were significant resources injected into educational systems around the country, and it really enabled districts to really build up those financial reserves. And Plymouth Canton is certainly no different in that respect. So fund balance is often then expressed as a percentage of expenditures. So if you take your fund balance of $49.1 million, divided by your expenditures of about $212 million, you get about 23%. And to give you an idea of what that relates to kind of statewide and what some metrics would be, because we talked about why it's important to have fund balance, this gives some context about how much fund balance is really enough. This is, again, that history there, but you can see that the district was at about 23%. It's not on here, but the statewide average for June 30th, 2022 was about 22%. So we're right at about that state average fund balance level. Some of the metrics that are commonly used would be a 15% fund balance target. So the blue line on there would represent where you'd be if you were at that 15%. Historically, that's what the Michigan School Business Officials has recommended as a fund balance level, is in that 15 to 20% range. And it's also worth noting that the red line there, that 5% line, that's sort of the floor you want to be at, because if you drop below that line, that's where the state starts to identify that there could be signs of financial distress, and that's where there can be additional reporting, additional monitoring from the state to make sure you aren't going to slide into a budget deficit. But again, all in all, the results would show that you are right about a little above the state average for fund balance, so certainly an indication that the district has really maintained its financial resources and done a nice job of sort of preserving that fund balance and having those reserves available in case there's any uncertainties you have to deal with in the future. So that completes our formal presentation. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to address those this evening.
Okay, I will open it up to the board. I'm going to start with Member Sadoo.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everyone that's been involved with maintaining the clean label in terms of the auditing process. So I know it's a lot of heavy lift from the staff. So thank you for everyone that's been involved. My question is around slide 10. If we could just go there for a minute. One up. There we go. So when we look at our enrollment, we know it's been declining as well as what the state is showing us. Do our numbers include our school of choice students in these numbers? They do.
Yes.
Okay. And this year, how many students were we able to fill with school of choice?
Excuse me. for fiscal '24 for the period of the audit or for '25?
Actually, let's go back for the audit.
It was 331 from last year.
331, okay.
338. Was it 331, 338?
I didn't want to say, it's right around 330.
Okay, that's fine, that's close enough. So the state is declining worse than where we are, and we're able to sort of maintain our level based on school of choice, right? Just want to get that clear. Okay, thanks. Just talking out loud, getting clarity around those numbers.
Great. I'm gonna kick it over to Saeed. Any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Josh?
And then I just want to echo the words of thanks to everyone who's able to do this and get a successful audit. And then thank you for the amazing presentation. And no questions.
Great. Okay, Member Ahmed.
I just had one question on slide 12 on the debt service percentage. And I was just curious how we compare to other districts on that.
So it really varies, because again, it just depends on what amount of bonds you have outstanding, what leases you have outstanding. So some districts are doing a lot of building, some districts are not doing a lot of building. So a lot of times when we're actually looking at expenditures, we look at what we call operating expenses, which actually carve out capital outlay, because capital outlay can fluctuate wildly from year to year, just depending on what you have going on, and debt service, what you have going on from year to year. So I don't have an exact comparison for you off the top of my head, but certainly, we can get those numbers. Those are available. But from the general fund, because keep in mind, a lot of the bonded expenditures go through the separate debt service funds. So that's where a lot of the bond payments are not in the general fund. They're outside of that other debt service fund.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'd like to ask, so like how many, all total number of school to choice do we have?
I'd have to get that number for you. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for all your work. And you too. Thank you.
I don't really have any questions. Thank you for all this work. I would like to remind the community that when they talk about the general fund money, and you talked about the inflation, that is for a general ed student. That does not include money that would fund, adequately fund a special ed student, or a multilingual learner, or a child who takes the bus to school, or for CTE or any of those specialized services. Patrick's not here, so I have to fill that in for us. And then, if you're sitting in the audience and you're wondering, this whole presentation is online, so you can feel free to peruse it at home, because it is wonderfully riveting information. And if you want even more information, if you go to the district website under transparency reporting, all of the district information is online. And in fact, when I remembered when President Christensen was talking about going to Wayne Risa, I had gone to a class there, and one of the presenters was talking about how she actually goes through, she's on her school board, and she actually goes through the check register for her school district.
Huh?
I'm not sure I would do that, but you could. It's online.
All right, thank you. I do have a couple of questions. I echo what everyone said. Thank you for your hard work and obtaining or maintaining our clean audit this year. So thank you to the district, and thank you to our auditors for the reporting. Question for you on slide number 5. This is around the COVID-19 relief funding. It appears that primarily most of our funding sources we've spent our limit, except our ESSER 311T. I know we're on target. Can you remind myself and the community when that is meant to be spent in total?
The deadline to expend those funds is September 30th. And we met that deadline. We have expended in full the remaining funds.
Great, thank you. And then additionally, I just wanted to point out, this is not really a question, but if we move to page 16, where we're talking about our general fund balance and how we're exceeding that 15% guideline. We know that we're not properly funded in public education, and however we've been able to bolster up that general fund, we are operating at a, what do we want to say, structural deficit, or we're approaching a fiscal cliff. So while we appear to have this healthy fund balance, if we are not properly funded in years to come, that will diminish quite quickly. So I just want to make sure that the community realizes that, and I know we as a district are aware of that approaching. So plans are in place.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
I would like to just add one remaining comment. Thank you for your work and the collaboration, and it was a smooth process, so thank you for that. I also want to acknowledge the dedication and time and earnestness with which Jody Melvin led this audit as well. So very much appreciate that work, and as well as the full finance staff. Everyone was involved for a very smooth process, I believe. So thank you.
And I will add on as well a thank you to you, Ms. Minnick, for
Yes.
leading that team, coming on. Literally, the entire team basically turned over, the majority of the team turned over in the finance department in that year. And so we appreciate you for joining the team and for your leadership and support of that entire team, and we thank you as well. And that is, we are competitive and we like A's, so thank you for our A+. We'll continue to maintain it.
All right.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to part of our annual audit requirement is action item number 25-10-25. So this is consider approval of a resolution for our annual financial audit reports for fiscal year 2023-2024. This is a first and final reading. I believe we asked all of our questions, so can I please have a motion first?
I would like to make a motion for action item 25-10-25, consider approval of a resolution. Annual financial audit reports for fiscal year 2023-2024, first and final reading.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so it was moved by VP McCoyne and seconded by Trustee Ahmed. I'm going to call for vote. So those in favor, please say yes. Yes. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we're moving on to the next. We have consider approval of a resolution for the purchase of 2 rooftop units, RTUs, for Canton High School. This is a first reading. Ms. Minnick, can you run us through that?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This evening, thank you for the opportunity to present to you a recommendation to replace 2 rooftop units at Canton High School. We have shared at previous board meetings the challenges that we have been dealing with around air conditioning at many of our high schools, other elementaries as well. And so as part of that work, we are recommending this evening a replacement of 2 rooftop units at Canton High School. These are beyond their useful life. We have worked and strived to keep these units going, but they are beyond their useful life and they are no longer operational. And so as such, we are making that recommendation this evening. The quote is attached. It comes at a cost of $89,893.32. It will be funded by the 2020 or 2023 bond series. We are able to do that, although this was not identified in the bond program, because the Plymouth High School chiller units, also air conditioning equipment, failed as a result of storms and a power surge. And that replacement is being covered by the insurance proceeds. So that is on the agenda this evening as well, but we've been able to shift then those earmarked funds in the bond program for the park to be shifted over to fulfill the funding requirement for these units at Canton. So I just wanted to be transparent and point that out as well. These units have a lead time of about 14 weeks. We know that the cooling season will be on us sooner than you think. But we will work to order these upon board approval and be sure that they are installed in a timely manner. They also come along with a 5-year warranty on the compressor parts only. But with us this evening, we have Matt Lentz, our Director of Capital Programs and Facilities, for any questions you may have. So thank you for your attention to this matter.
Okay, thank you. Start with Member Sadoo.
Thank you. I noticed the timeline of 14-week delay, so I'm guessing it wouldn't be helpful if we did a first and final read on this?
That's correct. At this point, good evening, Board.
Good evening.
That's correct. At this point, with the extended duration of the lead time And really with the timing, if we order this in December, January, February, March, we could target an install around spring break. So the schools would be empty. We will require a crane. We will have to lift on and off the old units, the new units. We will have to do curb work on the roof, roofing. So it would be safer if we can target spring break when we know the building's empty, we know it's quarantined, and we only have a few programs that'll actually be in and around the building. So a first and final at this point is not necessary.
Okay. My second question is around the warranty. I noticed that the warranties in the equipment that we have is generally low. Is this standard procedure to get a 5-year compressor and a 3-year parts and coils and controls?
Yeah, this is coming off of a co-op. This is kind of the industry standard of what we get
Okay.
on just about any equipment we're going to purchase.
Okay, just doesn't seem like it's that long.
When the
Question.
I just
Yeah.
just thought I'd ask. Okay, that's it for me.
Saeed?
I have no questions, thank you.
Josh?
I also have no questions, but thank you.
Okay. Member
No
Ahmed?
questions, thank you.
No, mine's answered, thank you.
My questions were answered. If they're not working, you have to replace them.
Yep, I agree. I do have a question. This is around your comment about this not necessarily being earmarked for bond funds, but because of the Plymouth chiller being replaced by insurance funds, we can kind of swap that over to this. What was that amount that was earmarked for that Plymouth chiller? And are we exceeding that amount? Or are we below that amount?
Although I don't have the exact number for you on my fingertips,
Yes.
it is in excess of this dollar value,
Okay.
significantly.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on to action item number 25-10-26. Consider approval of a resolution for the purchase of a chiller unit for Plymouth High School. This is a final reading. Can I have a motion?
Madam President, I have a motion for action item number 25-10-26 to consider approval of a resolution for the purchase of a chiller unit for Plymouth High School, final reading.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so it was moved by Member Ahmed and seconded by Member Picard. We did talk about this at our last meeting. Do we have any other questions or comments around this resolution? No? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, please say yes. Yes. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to teaching and learning with Ms. Rail.
Thank you, President Christensen. It's my pleasure tonight to welcome to the podium Dr. Denise Lilly, our Executive Director of Elementary Education, who will be providing some elementary education updates. Taking us back in time, you remember in the spring last year, we did updates from elementary, middle, and high school, and we'll continue to bring highlights and updates to the board as well. This presentation was vetted at SPA in the October SPA meeting, and so at this point, we're bringing it forward to share with you some of the exciting things happening at the elementary school. Welcome, Dr. Lilly.
Thank you, Ms. Rell. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share this information with you this evening. I stand here as a vessel for the hard work that so many of our educators do on a daily basis. We have hundreds of teachers, administrators, families who engage with us. So again, I am just representing the work that they do every day and the countless hours that they dedicate to this work and to our students and community. So Ms. Rell shared with you the overall purpose of today. And so again, I won't belabor on what has already been shared, but I want to highlight just a couple of things from our dynamic plan. You all are well aware of this, and to the community, we've been working with our dynamic plan for a few years now. You will see several of the components and the goals highlighted throughout the course of the presentation. But again, so I won't lift those right now, but we'll talk about them in depth at another time. So in thinking about our logic model, what we know for sure, and I'm going to just highlight the inputs and the outcomes. So much of our work, when we think about all that we have been doing around a strong MTSS framework, for those who may not know, the multi-tiered system of support framework, which ensures that we are working to meet the needs of all of our students throughout our district. We want to ensure that we have teachers with diverse expertise in differentiated instruction, formative assessments, active learning, and technology integration, which again will be highlighted throughout this evening, excuse me. Educational materials. We've talked a lot in depth for years now around the importance of having culturally relevant and culturally responsive materials to meet the needs of all of our students in a variety of different capacities. We have worked diligently, as you know, for years now in providing true, authentic professional learning for our staff. And I will also highlight this evening the important work that we are doing and also being modeled and replicated throughout the state, I might add, around coaching and the important work that that brings to for our students and for our staff. What the anticipated and expected outcomes to be. Again, students who have an increased interest in learning due to more interactive and relevant teaching materials and methods. Again, making sure that students have a high level of participation. We want to make sure that students are truly engaged. When Mrs. Harrington spoke earlier, she talked about that joy. And we always want to make sure that we are cultivating the joy of our students and recognizing the needs that they have on a daily basis. By doing that, we want to ensure that students and staff, again, feel safe, represented, valued, and challenged. And in doing so, we will make sure that we are also closing the achievement gaps and the opportunity gaps, which ultimate goal of preparing our students for the future, which takes me to the next slide with regard to our learner profile. And what we know is that this is the work that we anticipate when our students leave our district, once they have graduated, that they will have all of these components within them in order to ensure that they are global citizens that are actually able to participate in the world around them. These are most of our key activities for this year. And again, we won't go into all of them today, but I just wanted to take time to highlight the great work again that is taking place. We've done hours and hours, I mean hundreds and hundreds of hours around training on collaborative classroom, U-Fly, and morphology to meet the needs of our students in areas of ELA. Thinking about our Envisions math program, the implementation. We know that we began that implementation during the pandemic. And because, again, of so much that was going on, we wanted to make sure that we went back, gave our staff the tools that they needed in order to ensure successful implementation in the classroom. You will hear me talk about more in depth in a moment, building-based instructional coaches, and again, our perspective around reading intervention, math intervention, and then lastly, the elementary student success specialists and the work that they are doing in our buildings. Coaching, co-teaching, and collaboration. I honestly can't speak enough about this. When we talked about some of the changes to our programs over the last few years, what we know for sure, and this is one of our MyKIP strategies across all of our elementary buildings, that we have instructional coaches in all of the buildings. And what that does is gives the opportunity, when we think about going back to dynamic plan and goal A and B, around ensuring that we're closing opportunity and achievement gaps, but also ensuring that everyone feels safe and valued, respected. The opportunity to have coaching in the building where you can have conversations, adult conversations, and talk about what's happening in the classroom. The opportunity to talk with a colleague around areas of concern that you may have, whether it's a curricular resource that you may not necessarily be familiar with, and or just meeting the ongoing needs of our students. Being able to be vulnerable in those spaces, I can't tell you how important that is. Even with our administrators, being able to sit down and when we're looking at our data and analyzing our data, having that individual, those coaches who are digging deep into the material, being able to lift those conversations, it goes so far. When we talk about collaboration, again, in our professional learning communities, again, I'm going to talk about the administrators in a moment, but knowing that they were up at 7 o'clock this morning in their buildings for their professional learning communities, having those times to collaborate with one another, it goes a long way. Just, again, being able to be vulnerable in those spaces. Sometimes when we talk about safety and security, we lift the importance of that for students, but we also want to ensure that we're lifting that space for staff as well, because it is difficult when you sometimes don't necessarily know if this is the right thing to do, but to have those trusted individuals to know that they are part of the team with you goes a long way. So most importantly, academic engagement. And what does this look like? What do you see when you walk into the classrooms? Again, I'm a firm believer that when it's just completely quiet in the classroom, sometimes you say, what's going on? To see the joy in classrooms, to know that the strategies and the work that we're implementing is making a difference, truly warms my spirit. When we look at the instructional strategies and the academic engagement, you'll see on the photos, and again, we have hundreds and hundreds of photos, so I couldn't share them all today, but wanted to make sure that I represented all of our buildings. So you'll see on the photos, small group instruction with in our classrooms, peer share, opportunities for students to talk, to listen and learn. One of our strategies that we've been looking at around PSYOP training, so sheltered instructional observation protocol, is very specific around interaction. What does it mean to look like, what does it look like when you're in the classroom and students are interacting with one another? They're engaging in in-depth conversations. They're having facilitated conversations with their teachers. So those are things that are lifted in the photos here. Students working with manipulatives. This is the next slide as well, if it works. Working with manipulatives, again, making sure that students, when we're talking about the various modalities of learning, that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. Innovation, how are students thinking outside of the box? When we're talking about critical thinking skills and problem solving, we are preparing our students for the world around them, because we know that as the world continues to change, they're going to be prepared by the work that we're doing with them today. Technology integration. We are in year 2 of a 3-year rollout with regard to our interactive flat panels. And if you haven't had an opportunity to visit our schools that actually have had them installed, I encourage you to do so, to see the work that's taking place with students in the buildings, opportunities for students to engage in a variety of modalities, whether it's in small group instruction, going peer-to-peer with their classmates, going up to their boards, just a lot of engagement. Again, when we're talking about that output, wanting to make sure that this is relevant for students to meet their needs. We know that right now in the world around us, students come to, they have tablets, they have all of the things at their fingertips. And so again, when we talk about, again, being responsive, it's not just in one perspective. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students, meeting them where they are, and ensuring that they have the supports in place. Dr. Merritt often talks about the village and the importance of having the village around us. And what that means is engaging with families. And we know families come to us in a variety of different capacities, but we welcome that. We want families, as you saw today from our Families with Tonda, we want families to come in and be a part of the educational plan for our students. And so all of our buildings throughout the year, some at the beginning, throughout the year, you will see intentional academic programs. We have lots of fun things that we do around culture and climate, sense of belonging, but again, those intentional academic programs, because there are times, as we've seen in our perception survey data and a variety of other communication points, that families will say, well, it just looks different than what I'm accustomed to and what I remember. So how do we bring families in, and how do we become intentional in the work that we're doing so that we can showcase the hard work of our students and staff on a daily basis? This year, we've had an opportunity to expand our elementary student success specialist program. We talked about this last spring, but again, I want to just lift a few data points with regard to the impact. Now, what we know is with our student success specialists, they are now able to support 10 of our 14 buildings. And what we saw last year was a decrease of around 113 suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, due to the intentional work that our elementary student success specialists are doing in the buildings. And it shows up in a variety of different ways, whether it is support plans, friendship groups. You'll see in the next photo, check in, check out. They work in a variety of phenomenal ways to, again, meet the needs of students, engage with families, have those conversations, sometimes just to be that trusted person. We know, again, when we're talking about the psychological safety, it's not always necessarily for students either. So when families are coming in, they know that they have that person they can go and talk to and be vulnerable and transparent. It goes a long way. So I am so proud of the work that our student success specialists continue to do. And here they are, highlighted on the screen. You will see this again is representing all of the buildings. We have 8 student success specialists that are in 10 buildings. As I talked about before with regard to that multi-tiered system of support, our focus and emphasis on a daily basis is ensuring that at the core of what we do, our Tier 1 instruction is solid. That's with the classroom teacher. Those are the individuals that students are working with on a daily basis, and so that Tier 1 instruction shows up with whole group, small group, and individual. As I said before, I always want to praise the work that our teachers are doing because they go above and beyond to ensure that they are meeting the needs of our students. And to that end, I know that there's been a lot of conversations with regard to our instructional guidelines and recommendations. So I wanted to spend some time this evening just to unpack that a bit. And what you will see here is a framework and recommendations. What we know for sure is that our teachers and our administrators are the educational experts in their classrooms and in their buildings. And so every day we know that they're going to do what they are supposed to do to meet the needs of their students. And so they make choices every day to ensure that they are supporting the students, but it shows up in a variety of different capacities. So one of the things that I want to lift, and I'll expand on what I'm saying just in a moment. When we think about SEL, we know beginning around 2020 at the time of the pandemic, and since then, there's been a lot of that's happened in our world. I think that we would be remiss if we said that there were not things that have shown up in a variety of different ways. And again, when we're talking about being responsive to meeting the needs of students, social emotional learning, we're talking to students about who they are. They're coming into the classrooms daily. We're having opportunities for teachers and their peers to build those relationships. It's community building. So again, to have an isolated, identified time for that to take place. When we talk about, again, responsiveness, we're meeting the needs of students, we're meeting them where they're at, and we want to make sure that, because what we know, we can't do some of the things that we need to do if we're not responsive in meeting the things that they're bringing to the table as well. When we talk about, again, U-Fly and morphology, collaborative classrooms, we have designated identified time that has been lifted to ensure that we are supporting, again, our students in a variety of capacities. When we look at math, we're spending an hour to an hour and 10 minutes a day to ensure, again, that we are meeting the needs of our students. And the reason why this is broken down, and I want to go back for just a second and lift in this space, that we had the educational experts at the table for months talking about these schedules and looking at this to ensure that we're meeting the needs of students. We realized that we have 7 hours a day with our students. And so in that time period, we want to make sure that we're doing all that we're supposed to do academically, but also socially and emotionally, as well as when we talk about their play. And so I want to lift in that space just some of the other things that we have done. There's been often conversations about recess. And so you will see on this schedule, there are 2 different identified times for recess. We have our classroom recess, that's 20 minutes a day, as well as our lunch and lunch recess, which ends up being a total between the classroom recess and the lunch recess of 50 minutes a day. And that's important to lift because we know, again, that we're meeting the needs of our students. With that being said, I also want to remind you of meeting all the needs of students. We have intentional work around arrival, breakfast, announcements, a lunch reset time. When you're talking with teachers in the classroom, students are coming back in from lunch, they're elevated in a variety of different ways. We have been very responsive in making sure that we allow students an opportunity to transition back into their classrooms to reset so that they are ready for the instruction for the afternoon. In addition to that, we have identified time for the closing of the day, for those transitions as students are getting their things ready to go home. So we've been intentional. There have been so many staff members that have been a part of these conversations. And so I just wanted to, again, lift that in this space because I know that this is something that is important to so many of our stakeholders. And with that, as I said before, I'm just here to represent the hard work of our team. We have thousands of people who come in and day out and do the work, but I want to acknowledge the team that is here today, so if you will please stand. They are the individuals, along with our classroom teachers, who are here, boots on the ground, to make sure that they are meeting the needs of students, to lift and cultivate that joy that Mrs. Harrington spoke about earlier. So with that, I am going to step back and ask if there are any questions. I also welcome Mr. Carr, who is our Executive Director of Curriculum, Instruction, Assessment, and Professional Development. Does that leave anything out? All right.
It's all there.
Because he and I have worked hand in hand on so many different things, so I want to make sure that we answer your questions as much as we can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Start with Member Sadhu.
Starting with
Yeah,
me.
I'll change it next meeting.
Thank you for the presentation, and yes, we went through this in our Student Performance and Achievement Committee earlier this month. So I have a few questions with regard to the schedule that you just put up. And since that meeting, a lot has gone on with what people are saying.
Mhm.
So for clarity, has this schedule changed from last year?
Thank you for asking that question. So I want to lift that this is the schedule that began the conversation in 2018, 2019. So this was pre-pandemic. And so as we've said, there may be times as professional experts in the classroom where teachers may have a different amount of time. If they're looking at their schedule and they say, my students don't necessarily need a lunch reset today and I'm able to add in a different way, then that may show up differently. But the recommendations that we have today are the same recommendations that, I will say very specifically around recess, that occurred before the pandemic in the 18-19 school year.
So with that, when we know that the pandemic shifted everything,
Mhm.
right? People had to adjust everything. So do you think in that shift after the pandemic, there was maybe more emphasis put on recess, and that's why the shift back to pre-pandemic may seem unsettling for some people? Or do you feel like it was continuous from 18-19 to where we are today?
So we know that there were times, because of a variety of different reasons, that there may have been some shifts going back and forth as we were trying to be responsive to the needs of students. And so, again, if teachers were outside for 30 minutes, if there was something happening in the classroom, we were in support of that. But again, those were the recommendations in the 2018-2019 school year, the expectations moving forward. But we know that there are times when, using our professional judgment, that we may pivot based off a variety of things.
Okay. I have more questions, but I just want to finish with this one thought, and I'll let you all go. One of the things we talked about in SPA was communicating with families. If there is some concern that something shifted, how has this been communicated with families, saying this was the same thing that we had in 2018-19, and maybe there were some adjustments, modifications, but we are consistent with where we were in 18-19? Has that been communicated with families?
So what I would say is, again, when we think about it, so the word shift is relative, right? And I would say that these are the expectations and the times that were allotted in 2018, 2019, and that wasn't communicated then. So with regard to it being a mass communication of sorts, no, that did not take place, because again, we were going back to what we were doing before.
Okay. I'll come back to more. Okay.
One other thing that might make some sense with that is anybody who's been...
Can you come closer to the mic?
Anybody who's contacted us has certainly been met with, and we've had that discussion to say there hasn't really been a change, and to talk through the recess pieces, but also the SEL pieces.
Okay.
All right. Saeed?
I have no questions. Thank you for the amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Josh?
I just have one question. Could you go to, I think it was like around slide 9 or 8. It was with the suspension, it had suspensions on it.
Student success
Yeah.
specialist. Yes.
So it says a 39% decrease in 6 of the 8 buildings.
Mhm.
Do you know why it's 6 out of 8 and not all of them?
So for a variety of different reasons, but when we want to be transparent with our data, we saw the decline in 6 of the 8 buildings. So the other 2 may have had some decline and may have had some increases, but again, in being fully transparent, wanted to just acknowledge the work that had been done in the 6 of 8 buildings with reduction.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Josh asked my question, so I have no questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Lilly.
I just have a question. So with the, when I look at that morning chart on amount of time spent, and I see that there's, I lost it.
16.
Oh,
Page
16.
16.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. Sorry, too. I see where at the morning we have the SEL meeting for 20 minutes. Well, with our new literature curriculum, they have that all integrated, SEL, since it's integrated into the literature, collaborative classroom. And it's actually a Castle SEL select group, so it's actually probably has a lot of SEL in it. I was just wondering if there's room in that area to reduce or to have an opt-in, opt-out for those students that come socially, emotionally fine to school, instead of sitting, because a lot of their social emotional learning is, according to a lot of the a lot of the studies, is happening through play. And so instead of just, I have like some studies here. I don't have time to go through all of them, but if you want to see them. But it's the importance of play, and that they have, and that a lot of the same things that they talk about, they can actually experience by being out on recess. And so since they're getting it through the curriculum, I don't know if there's like room there. And some kids, you know, for them, it's really not meeting their needs by sitting there and talking about issues or problems or whatever, but they might do better by being out at recess and actually implementing those things that they've learned through experience. And so there's, so I was just wondering, because somehow I remember having recess in the morning when I was in school. We had morning and afternoon recess and lunch recess. And when my kids came in the district, it was really like, I couldn't believe in first grade that they did not have a morning recess. And I'd come in and help, and I'd see some of these kids just, you know, around the chairs and doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm thinking, gee, if they could just run out there for 15 minutes. So I'm just wondering if that's an option, or somehow of thinking of that, maybe having an option for parents if they think, well, my kids, I'd rather them experience it than.
So thank you for lifting that, and you actually hit the nail on the head with regard to what you saw in your experiences and your wonders with regard to moving around. And so I think that there may be this belief that with social emotional learning, the students are just sitting still. They're engaged in a variety of different ways. And so when we think about this, the interactivity in the classroom, majority of the time students are up, they're moving around, they're engaging in conversations, and they're actually play-based instruction within the SEL component so that students are up and they're moving around. I also want to lift, and this again is not necessarily highlighted here, but when we talk about, again, the professional judgment of our colleagues, they know their students. And so you would see in a variety of different classrooms, they have sensory diets, they do a variety of different things in order to meet the needs of students. And so they're up and they're moving around. So when you see ELA and some of those pieces, it is embedded in there, but in the morning time, I just want to be clear that they're engaging in SEL in a variety of different ways, and they are engaging in play-based, it's in the classroom throughout the entire day.
Well, but some of the studies show how free play, there's a difference between free play and
structured play.
Play-based. And so like the fact that they can go out there on their own and experience these things and try to work through them is so much more of a process that they actually learn to deal with many things. And it also says it also does help them deal with their own self-regulation and everything. It teaches them how to be around other people. So sometimes that free play. So I guess I'm just saying there's a difference between the free play and student, in a classroom, kind of a directed play.
And I don't disagree. So there is unstructured playtime that we have, but as I said before, when we're looking at our colleagues and we know that they know their students, there are multiple opportunities throughout the day for if they need to go outside, they do. And again, it may not necessarily be shown in this capacity, but every day we have people who are going outside, they're doing different things, and wanting to also recognize the importance while we talk about unstructured play, free play, and play-based learning, making sure that students are up and they're moving around, and we're always engaging in that capacity. So while I do definitely understand what you're saying as it pertains to the free play and unstructured play, I do believe, given that we have a 7-hour day, we have allotted nearly an hour to ensure that we have that separate time, but also making sure that as we have our instruction throughout the day, they're engaged in a variety of different capacities.
So, but what about the overlap of the social emotional learning? Because they're already getting in the literature. It's an extra special select group with our reading and writing. So then to have 20 minutes of it seems like that's a lot too. It seems like, I don't know, that's my opinion, so.
Well, thank you for sharing. And what I would again say is that even within the 20 minutes, we have our colleagues who are the professional experts in the space, and so they know their students. There may be days when they may not necessarily use that entire 20 minutes. I want to be clear that these are parameters that we have. We know that there may be times when a lesson may not necessarily take that entire 20 minutes or 30 minutes or even an hour, so to speak. And so they may tack on an additional 5 minutes, or they may go outside and say, you know what, let's walk around. It's a beautiful day. It's 80 degrees in October. Let's have some fun. And so we, again, want them to have the guidelines because we know this is based off research, best practices, while also recognizing that they are the professional experts in the classroom and they will meet the needs of their students.
That's just real quick. So if a teacher decided that, let's say early elementary, decided that for their social emotional learning that day, they could take their kids outside in the morning? Okay. Just wanted to check that. Thanks.
Right, Member McCoy?
I have questions. I'll ask a couple and then I'll defer to members to do. So kind of as a follow-up to do families and parents know who to direct their questions to? Because the school board's been getting a lot of questions about, like, the schedule in schools. And we don't set the schedules. And so I'm not clear that people know who sets the schedules and who they direct their questions to.
Well, first and foremost, we always want to ensure that our families are engaging with the building staff and building administrators. We have them here today, and they also are the educational experts in that space. And if there are times when they want to have further conversations, as Mr. Carr shared, we've met with a few different families to ensure that we're answering their questions. But the first line would be to go to the building principal and have those conversations.
And then, so for instance, this 20 minutes for recess, for classroom recess. Is that outside time? Is that the children are expected to be on the playground at that point? Are they dressed, ready, and outside, and then the time starts? Or is that we're getting ready, then we're going outside? Because especially in the winter, if we don't have our boots and coats on, that can suck up a lot of time, especially after lunch. Like little, especially small children, if we're putting on a coat and boots and mittens and a hat, we've used up a lot of time. You know, by the time we're dressed, it's over. You know, so, you know, it might feel like more time, but if we have, you know, a small child, 50 minutes, you know, it takes 10 minutes to get the food out of their lunchbox. And then, you know, 10 minutes to decide to try to eat. And then 10 or 15 more minutes to eat. And then 10 minutes to put on their coat. And now they're outside and it's time to go in. And then they go back in the building. And then for outside recess, they start it all over again. They haven't eaten. But it's still, you know, I guess I'm wondering if the 20 minutes is actual outside time or if they're putting on their coats. Like, it's been a long time since I taught elementary school and went outside. But say, for instance, if I was going outside, my kids were out on the playground when recess started. And I blew the whistle when recess ended, and then we started to line up. Ish. Like, it's I was the one here. Well, okay, it ended at 3, but you know, it's 3:05. I mean, I hope you didn't have a special because we're late. But so, you know, but then there's always teachers who don't love to be outside, and they kind of, you know, push that time a little closer. So are they getting their full 20 minutes? Because that's already, to me, a short time.
So what I would say is that first and foremost, no one's standing outside with a clock or watching, monitoring everything. No one's micromanaging. I want to be very clear with regard to that. As I said, our teachers are the educational experts, and so they know their students. And in no time will we, again, recess is not punitive. So we're not going to take away time because students are taking a few minutes more to put on their gloves or their boots. We're responsive to meet the needs of our students, and so we understand that there are going to be times where they're going to be delayed. And we understand that, again, they are the professional experts in the classroom, and they know that it may take a little bit more time, and so they embed that into their daily schedule to ensure that they're meeting the needs of students in a variety of different capacities. But our students are allowed to play on the playground. It may be 20 minutes. We know that there are times when, you know what, the kids can say, we're ready to go in. So it may be 15 minutes that day, and then they're doing some fun things in the classroom. So it shows up in a variety of different ways, but I can assure you that, and again, my principals can come up and say if they would like, but no one's standing there and saying, okay, you've been out here for 19 minutes, it's time to go. It's not happening.
I appreciate that. I want to follow up on a couple of things, just again, in my own personal experience with having some children who are in elementary school or recently out of elementary school. At the kindergarten level, certainly when you talk about putting on boots and coats and eating, it takes a lot longer. And when we went through the kindergarten orientation, you know, the administrators talked about how we're going to build up that rigor for that shorter lunch period. So it wasn't the expectation on the day one that they were going to have their boots, their coats, and their lunch eaten in this really short time. So it was a progression. Similarly, my son, who is in 5th grade now in 6th grade, there was some days where he didn't have his second recess, and it wasn't a punitive measure. It was because they were so into a class project or a unit, and that particular teacher at the time was talking about building up their rigor for middle school. So it changed on a daily basis, and I think that was up to, as you're saying right now, it's up to each educator and knowing what their classroom needs. But I do have some follow-up questions for you too. So I just sharing my own personal experience for take it for what it's worth. But at any rate, this came up at another meeting. I think Member Sadhu mentioned this or asked this question: is recess counted towards instructional time?
Yes.
Both recesses or any amount of recess counts
Assistant
towards
Superintendent Tiskowitz will answer
one
that
recess.
question.
Let me jump in. The afternoon or any recess other than lunch is counted as instructional minutes.
Okay. All right. I will pause here and pass it on and let Member Sadhu ask some questions.
And just for clarity, that 50 minutes lunch, that is what's not counted.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank
Because
you.
it's got /recess in it.
Correct.
Just to dig deeper into that, so you got lunch and recess 50 minutes. And I know it's flexible and it's different in buildings, but about what is the average time that kids get for lunch?
So average is 25 minutes. It may be 20 depending on the students.
Okay.
What we know for sure, our baseline is that we are not rushing students out of the cafeteria. We want to make sure, particularly at the beginning of as you alluded to, President Christensen, there are times when the students are going to take a bit longer, and we're going to allow them that opportunity to take their time. Again, we also recognize that students, if they have recess behind lunch, they'll try to hurry up and eat. And so we have our lunch supervisors who are actively engaged in monitoring to make sure that students are slowing down and taking their time. So it may be 20 minutes, it may be 25, but we have that allotment of 50 minutes each day.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that, because I actually had a student who told me, just ran into a friend and was talking to her young child and just said, hey, how are you liking school? And his response was, not as much as last year, because I don't get much time for recess and I don't get much time to eat. So I'll make sure that he talks to his teacher and make sure that his needs are being met.
Thank you.
My questions are now, I've got two. One is, I want to just maybe get information from your team, Superintendent Merritt, with regard to what is the research and best practice regarding recess? And what does the research say about SEL integration within the school? I do know we had a school that actually we were at where they had embedded SEL into their building and were saying, they were seeing really great results. So I think for a board, it would be good for us to have some of that research and say this is why we're doing it.
Yes.
And based on that research, I'd like to see what is the outcome of that investment in our students maybe the next year and the year after, because I'd like to make sure that we're following the research and looking at the data to make sure that our kids are getting the best outcome from those programs. My other questions, so totally shifting now, is more into programs. So if you could go back to the slide that talks about UFly and the math. Just another anecdote we heard earlier today, someone just popped into a meeting saying that he's heard great things about UFly. I know nothing about ELA. I'm a former math teacher, but I heard good things. We heard that at a meeting. So with regard to training and implementation, we know that anytime you have a new program with training and implementation, it takes time. So do the staff have adequate time for the training and implementation of these programs? And is it job embedded, meaning it's ongoing within the classroom on a weekly, monthly basis? Or is it they got it at the beginning of school year, maybe they'll have an hour or two PD in the middle, and then something in the summer?
I'll get close to the microphone. The professional development for teachers starts in the summer whenever we can. During opening week, there's professional development face-to-face. We'll do some more in November during professional development or whenever we have it. But the cat's meow in P-CCS is that we have a robust instructional coaching model that's embedded into the school day, meeting the needs of teachers just in time. So when a teacher's ready and they need to have a collaborator to figure out how do I implement morphology, they've got a partner. If they need to, if they're really practice, but they really want to focus on the craft and the art of it, they can be in an actual coaching cycle with a trained coach. So we've got a really good model, and we're excited about the potential impact that we'll have for our students long term.
Okay. Thank you for that. My last question is, with everything that you've done, is there anything you would change or do differently to improve the implementation and training of these programs?
So what I would say first and foremost is I'm going to always be the cheerleader for the great work that's already been done. And so it's hard to say what we would necessarily change. Perhaps, I mean, of course, we are always reflective in the things that we can do, and we always want to have opportunities to do better. But I would be remiss if I said that what is taking place right now is not phenomenal work. We know that we have districts that are coming in. Dr. Mayer talks about that legacy. They're coming in to see what we are doing. And so I give kudos and praise to the hard work that's taking place, but also an opportunity for us to evaluate and say, okay, let's think about this and let's pivot with this. So there are those opportunities as well.
I'd echo that with what Dr. Lilly said, that we're in terms of what we've done, I think we've done a really thoughtful job of introducing UFly, morphology, collaborative classroom. I think that if we reflect back over time, we did not look at the implementation science and how that would relate to the implementation of Envision. And so we're constantly now backtracking to make sure that we're up to snuff on that. Some of the things that I think that we do is that we're really trying to make sure that teachers get training, that our principals get training, that Dr. Lilly and I are supported in that work so that we're always on the same page thinking about and rowing together so that we can do the best we can for our kids. And so, you know, really thinking about all levels and making sure that we're bringing our best to support teachers at the classroom level. That's where the rubber meets the road. We've got to make sure that part is just super strong, and then our kids benefit from it.
I also want to lift a thank you to the Board of Education for taking that leap with us, especially around UFly, because we were one of the leaders in the state and across the nation in implementing UFly. Much of the county has moved towards that, much of the state and much of the nation has moved towards that model as well. But you all supported us in you know, in our conversations when we brought it forward, and we were a leader and innovator in that space. So I want to thank the board for their support in doing that as well, and all of the team, because it's been great work. It's been a very successful implementation. And you might even remember that as we were having the initial conversation with teachers, our teachers during the initial professional development lifted for us, we need to move faster on changing our assessments. And based on their input and willingness to do so, we were able to implement a little bit faster, moving forward with dibbles and different things so that we can continuously meet the needs of our students in a continuous improvement way. So thank you for that work. And thank you to everybody on the team for that work.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions, but I'll just end with a statement, and I mentioned this in our SPA meeting with regard to data. In SPA, for all of you that are watching or in the audience, during our student performance and achievement meetings, we do look at data. So I would encourage you to attend maybe a spring meeting where we look at all this data. And I mentioned this in our last SPA meeting is I want to see ongoing data with the results of the changes that have been put in here because they were based on research and best practice. So we're going to be looking at data on an annual basis with this, as well as the SEL and the other changes that have been made. So.
Okay. Any more questions across the group? No.
I just want to ask. So I just want to reiterate. So for the for the social emotional learning time slot in the morning, if a teacher felt that that was productive under SEL, because if there's only so much time required, I mean, so much recess time that is allowed for class instruction or whatever, would that still apply if they decided for social emotional learning they wanted to take their kids outside? Would that still be count as instructional time?
Yes.
So they could still count that as.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, we
if they felt
want
they
our
needed
teachers who are the professional experts who know their students best
thought that was the
to
best
make
thing
those
do.
decisions.
Okay.
We recognize that it may not necessarily be on a daily basis, but again, I want to also remind everyone that when we're talking about SEL, it shows up in a variety of different ways. Oftentimes it is play-based, it's community building, and so there are a variety of different ways in which that work can be done.
I just wanted to. Okay, thank you.
I'd also add that in terms of the morning SEL piece, that is a time to feel comfortable, to be regulated, to be ready for the day. And while we call it SEL here, the teachers call it the morning meeting. And it's all about getting set and ready for the school day. Just like we have an agenda in this meeting that we preview when we walk in and it helps us to understand what's going to happen, our kids benefit from that. So that's what SEL means. It means that kids are coming in, they're not sitting, they're meeting each other, greeting, sharing with each other, getting ready for the day and letting go of whatever else has been going on and thinking about what am I going to learn today and how does that connect with what I did yesterday and how I'm going to move forward.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation, your time.
Patrick wasn't here. And Patrick wasn't here, so he didn't have a chance to ask if there was anything you needed from us.
If there is, we will always bring it forward to you, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Rail.
Yep.
Okay, we're on to the next item here. Consider approval of a resolution for a new course, sports officiating. Excuse me, this is a first reading. Can you run us through that?
Sure, certainly. So for your consideration tonight, I'm here to talk about a new course proposal coming out of P-CCS, out of the high school, through the physical education team, and they're proposing a one-semester sports officiating elective course for 10th through 12th grade students. It is just what it sounds like. This is a course that would give students the knowledge and skills to become sports referees, umpires, and judges. So in Michigan and many states, young people can officiate once they are certified to do so. And the nice thing is they can make a small amount of money to do so. So in this course, our students would learn the rules and regulations for various sports through the MHSAA, Michigan High School Athletic Association, and National Federation of State High School Associations handbooks. That's like the course textbook, if you think about it. And then they would understand how to become a registered MHSAA official. Students will also apply what they learn by officiating within the course, but also cross-collaborating with our other physical education department courses and going into those courses to act as officials and do some hands-on job-embedded experience. So the current high school, what we know from the labor market and from current high school assigners of sports is that there is a shortage in our state for officials, judges, umpires, referees. And like I said, students would be able to do this part-time and build some skills. Fewer and fewer umpires and judges are available, and many times sports have to cancel practices or cancel games and stuff. So the proposed cost for this course, if approved, for the materials would be $1,235. That includes a couple of time clocks and some whistles for our students. Additionally, there's a course development cost. One of the things that was asked at SPA, our Student Performance and Achievement Committee, was, well, as we look at these things, what would we earmark also for people to come in, our staff to come in and help kind of build the units and things like that? So it would be around $780. So a total for the cost would, or course development would be $2,115. If this is approved, this course would go into implementation next fall in the 25-26 school year and beyond. So I'll open it up to any questions you might have. And I also want to say it's kind of amazing that we're already thinking about courses for next year, but that is how our cycle works in teaching and learning, curriculum and instruction and stuff. Is we're in the midst of the start of this year, but we also have to think ahead to next year and offering new opportunities for our young people. So I'll open it up to questions about this course, and then you're going to see there's a couple more we're going to go through tonight. So,
Member Sadoo.
I thought you were going to switch it up.
I was just thinking about
No,
the
it's
next
okay.
meeting.
No, it's okay. We actually discussed this in SPA, and there was a lot of great energy and questions about this. People are really excited about this course. I can't wait until students get involved, and I'd love to hear feedback from the students in terms of how do we make this better, and I hope this is an example of how we are leading and others will follow.
Saeed?
I have a quick question about how many specific sports does this class cover, or is it more of a general kind of course that's not really focused on specific sports?
And Kevin, if you, or Mr. Carr, if you want to come and answer as well. It's generally a more general course that looks at some of the larger sports. I've taught this course way back in my youth as a teacher, back when I taught at Bay City Central High School. And so this was a course that had a lot of interest in it, but we would do a variety of sports, mainly often based on the students within the course. Students who said, you know, like, we just really want to learn to be basketball umpire or officials. We want to learn to be referees for basketball. We want to do some judging for volleyball, and then we would customize the course a bit around our students. And I know that's the plan currently as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Josh?
This sounds like a really cool course, and I love the cross collaboration. And sadly, I don't have an open semester next year. But
I just have one question. On our current staff, how many of the PE teachers are actually also certified as referees?
I do not know the answer to that question. We can certainly ask it and follow up in board notes.
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
I don't have any questions. I am amazed that students actually would like to officiate at things.
It's money.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's a good first job. So I guess my question is around, you know, just that. So we see a lot of students who are seeking certification outside of school, and I believe that's at a cost, right? Out-of-pocket cost to be trained. Now we have this opportunity to take a class in order to have that certification and be a referee or umpire, as you say. Remind me, is this is this an elective, or is this a PE credit, or what does this cover?
It would be a physical education elective course,
Okay.
semester-long elective.
Okay. All right, thanks. It's exciting. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right. Would you like me to just keep going?
Yeah, keep on going.
Next on the list, and I'm going to take a few minutes to kind of unpack this one a little bit, because this is about personal finance. It's a course name change and credit attainment proposal versus a new course proposal. There was a lot of work done by the teams, the teams at PSEP, as well as the curriculum and instruction team, to think about, intentionally and deeply think about personal finance. So, to take you back into time, the Michigan law changed and said that any students entering grade 8 in 2023 and beyond would be required to earn an additional half credit, so 0.5 credit, personal finance. Our teams talked at length about this to say, do we create a new personal finance course that earns a half credit, or do we look within the courses we currently have, identify and determine what standards are currently taught in those courses, and would we have the opportunity to embed the standards that might be yet missing into courses that currently exist, increase the credit load for those courses, which I'll explain in a minute, so that we don't take away another elective for students. That is the course of action that the team decided on. So what we're looking at is, throughout a deep audit of courses, there were 2 courses identified, which are political and economic systems, economics, for 10th through 12th grade students, and advanced placement macroeconomics for 11th and 12th grade students. So those courses met most of the content standards, and I want to talk about standards versus credits for a minute. In the state of Michigan, we often talk about credits, but the content standards, the Michigan academic standards, are those things that the state sets out. The Michigan Department of Education says, these are the things that students master or cover, and this is how we teach a course. In state law, it does not mandate that we must teach a course. It says that we must meet the standards. So we can embed multiple standards into a course and award credit for more than one course within 1 credit of a course. So it's weird because it's the standards course thing. So hopefully that's making sense. And then what we can do is we crosswalk them. We add the additional content standards into the existing course, and then we can certify that as meeting the credit for personal finance in this case. So what we're looking to do is embed the personal finance standards into those two courses and awarding, this is the unique part, 1.0 credit for a 1-semester course. It will be the only ones in our content, in our course catalogs that will do that, but it will allow the students to meet their half credit additional requirement without losing any additional electives moving forward. So one of the things we know, there are 18 course kind of things that map out by the state if you look at courses specifically. And when you think about a student's high school pathway, there's not a lot of wiggle room for electives. So the more things that add on, the less things students get choice for. So as we look at this, we're looking at embedding it together so a student doesn't have to take an additional course, but they earn the credit within the courses now. So this is what the request is. So if I move to the recommended resolution, I'm going to kind of read this one because it's a little bit different. If and when it's approved, it's about approving the renaming of the two courses, Political and Economic Systems, PES Economics, to become Political and Economic Systems, Economics and Personal Finance, because we need to show it on the transcript as well. And Advanced Placement Macroeconomics would become Advanced Placement Macroeconomics and Personal Finance. And then the credits for both of those semester-long courses would increase from 0.5 to 1.0. I'm going to open it up for questions you might have, because I do know this is a different kind of route and path than we often bring forward, but we were really looking at how to best maximize the ability for our students to continue to engage in all of the unique and amazing work that we do here at P-CCS. So, questions you might have for myself or Mr. Carr.
Thank you. So we had our SPA meeting where we discussed this in great detail, and I do want to emphasize that standards are set by the state. So for people that are in the audience or watching, this document is linked within our agenda. And if you click on content expectations, it will take you to the standards that Michigan requires of schools. So their job is to embed those standards, and I do applaud the team for thinking creatively and strategically in how are these being embedded within a current course structure and tying it into economics, which makes sense. So I just want to say good work on the team's behalf.
Saeed?
I have no questions, thank you.
Josh?
I do have a question.
Yep.
So now they will be getting an extra half credit for that semester. Is that going to increase the amount of credits that a student needs to graduate, or is that going to make it easier for a student to graduate because they'll have an extra half credit?
That's the next conversation that we'll be bringing forward as we look at mapping it all out, as we look at the landscape of what's happening across all the credits and content standards at the state level. But that's a great question, Josh. Thank you for lifting that.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Oh, I just had a question about economics versus the macroeconomics, the AP. So a student then would either do one or the other, but if they did both of those, or like, isn't usually there's economics 1 or economics 2, micro and macro. So would they, I mean, if they took both, do you have to take the first economics class before you can take the AP, or do you just test into that one? Because if they took both, they'd be getting it twice then, right?
So AP macro is offered, AP micro is offered. The requirement of the state is to attain the standards. We teach the standards to the kids. So every economics course we teach will embed all of those. And then I believe the answer to whether or not kids don't test into AP, they just choose it. Yeah.
And this is Rania Hamoud, who is our K-12 curriculum coordinator for social studies and world languages and school climate.
Good evening. Yes, so to piggyback on what Kevin just said, any student can take the AP macro, micro. It is recommended that they take both, but they don't have to test in order to take it. And then if they take an AP micro or macro course, they don't have to take the regular econ course. And the other thing to cover is that the standards in AP macroeconomics will actually be taught after the students take their AP macro test. And that gives them about 3 weeks of instructional time. So if we do have a situation where maybe there's a student who's already taken econ and then decided to take AP macro econ as well, they can probably have a different alternative learning plan for those 3 weeks.
They don't have to go through it again.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, so they would end up, if they took both, then getting 2 credits then out of the whole.
We'd have to probably,
Professor work on
yeah,
that.
for those, like, that's a unique situation because we don't have, I don't know of many students that do that, but
Yeah.
if we do have students that are going to be in that situation, we would have to adjust their
Adjust the
credits.
credit.
Yep, so they're not double dipping.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep,
That's my
absolutely.
question.
Thank you.
Member McQueen.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for being so creative and coming up with a good solution for these children.
No questions. Thank you.
I will say, it is our students that actually helped us get to this decision. We had a student committee, and we asked them for their input. Would you like to take an additional personal finance course? And all but one said no.
Well, it gets
stunning,
hard
right?
because there's
Yeah.
so many requirements.
Yeah.
And only so much time in high school.
Right.
And they want to be able to take some things that really interest them also while they're there.
And that's exactly what they told us, is that it takes away, you think of like PSEP and how many wonderful learning opportunities and courses are available. And I think of like all these new elective courses that we're adding to our course catalog. And so if we're requiring students to take one additional course, it's going to have to replace an elective course. And we don't want to, students didn't want that to happen to them. And we all agreed this was the best decision.
Thank you.
The next 3 are kind of nested together, so I'll talk about each of them independently, and you let me know whether you prefer me to take them all in totality and then open for questions, or if you'd like to hear each of them independently. They do all meet together, so my recommendation would be we nest them together.
I agree. I was going to say that too.
That's fine with me.
Okay. So next we have a new course proposal, peer-to-peer connections. So members of the PSEP team has proposed adding a new 1-semester peer-to-peer connections course for 11th and 12th grade students. This is a general education course that is designed to foster positive peer relationships between neurotypical and neurodiverse students. General ed students would learn about special needs populations, leadership, and advocacy, while students who receive special education services will develop increased independence and social skills. The Gen Ed student, known as a connection peer, would provide support and support system for a peer with special needs. The connection peer would work alongside the peer with special needs in assigned classrooms and social settings. The course assists students in acquiring an understanding and acceptance of diversity in everyday life in the world of work. The curriculum for this course is called the START, Systematic Therapeutic Assessment Resources and Treatment Secondary Curriculum and Secondary Peer-to-Peer Program Playbook that was developed by Grand Valley State University. And it supports students, focuses on supporting students with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and other developmental disabilities in secondary school settings. Implementing the course would be free of charge regarding resources and materials, as the curricular resources are available at no cost through Wayne RESA, and the curriculum is provided on the START and throughout the START website. So that's the first one. The next 2 now become renaming 2 existing courses to better align with the naming and a pathway for these courses. So currently we have a course named Human Service Exploration Arts, and so it is aligned with the peer-to-peer connections opportunities and curriculum. So we'd like to rename that course from Human Services Exploration Arts course to become Peer-to-Peer Connection Arts. And the name change, again, will align all of the similar programming with the same naming structure. The third one is a similar course called Human Service Exploration Foods. And our request would be to change the name of that course to become Peer-to-Peer Connection Foods to align with the pathway. Now, when we look at arts, of course, what we're looking at is looking through the lens of arts programming, arts pathways, and again, our foods, then we would look at through the foods and nutrition pathway as well. So I'm going to open it up to questions you might have about the 3 of them, and just answer any questions so that, you know, we can provide support for you. Mr. Carr is here, but we also do have members of the high school team that are here as well if they do have questions, additional questions that they might need to answer beyond the ones we can. So go ahead and open it up for questions.
So again, we went through this in committee with regard, one of the things we talked about is making sure that kids are not teaching the course. And so this is a leadership opportunity for our students. And if you could share some of the feedback from the students that have taken it, I know the name is shifting, but the general work is not. So if you could just share like a brief highlight of that work.
Yep. One of the reasons we're trying to uncouple the names is because students have responded so positively to this course that they've feedback is they want to take it over and over in different ways. So allowing them to do that, we create these 3 different courses with separated names, so that allows students to engage more deeply. The positive relationships and the building of leadership skills that have happened from these courses are just phenomenal. And students have always represented it back as just a phenomenal experience for many, many reasons, and building those peer relationships for both the peer student and the peer connector, the connector student. So,
great. I just want to highlight the leadership opportunities embedded in this in these courses. So, again, thanks to the team for thinking beyond what we're already doing and making things better.
Saeed?
I have no questions, but I do think that all 3 of these resolutions sound like great ideas. Thank you.
I do have one question. With the new course, you have to, like, is there a specific order you have to take them, or can you jump around? Or
no, there's no specific order. You could take whichever one, all 3, one, whichever you prefer. So, and the team's done a phenomenal job on this, so kudos to them. Yep. So if the team would like to come up and just kind of quickly just introduce yourself to the group, we're happy to have you do that so that you can be recognized also for this hard work that you've put in. And then we'll finish answering questions you might have. So.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Jacqueline Klotz. I'm a special education teacher consultant at Canton High School.
Hold this down. Good evening. I'm Rachel Lamar, special ed teacher consultant at Canton as well.
I'm Richard Schaefer. I'm the ASD coach for the middle schools and high schools. Amy Remsky, who is a speech and language pathologist, couldn't be with us, and also Melanie Burkett, one of the ASD self-contained teachers, was a big part of this process. So.
Thank you. Okay, Member Ahmed?
Are there other districts that have already implemented these courses? And what have you heard from those districts?
Yep. So in fact, the team has worked with the other one. So if you want to quickly kind of share.
Yeah, so this idea kind of came to me. My daughter is a junior right now in South Lyon Community Schools, and she started becoming a peer when she was in 7th grade. So she's done it in 7th grade, 8th grade, and now continues on and is looking forward to becoming a special education teacher as well. So I've talked a lot with her teacher. It's been something that's implemented in South Lyon. Many school districts across Michigan have this program too, so it's everywhere.
Thank you.
And this is just electives, right? It's elective.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, I don't have any questions. This sounds like a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. No questions from me either.
Yep. And thank you to the phenomenal work from the team. So thank you.
Yeah.
And that's it for us tonight.
We are now on to citizens' comments. I have a pile here, and we will start with Natalie Sharp.
Hello, everybody. My name's Natalie Sharp. I'm a P-CCS alumni, former P-CCS employee, and current EduStaff employee, where I have subbed at every single building in the P-CCS district. And many of them I have actually almost all of them I have biked to. And so I'm here today to talk about the benefits of biking and why I think P-CCS should encourage more students to bike and walk to school. I've spoken here before because I just feel like there's so much negativity in the world. Instead of complaining, I'm here to bring you guys with actionable things that I think could make a difference. So yeah, the benefits of biking I know is really great with the exercise, mental health, self-advocacy of the students, and just decreasing that traffic on the road that everybody hates. So I talked about a couple weeks ago about the bike racks, and I talked about specific schools that I think should have more bike racks or relocated bike racks and just awareness in that. And then another way I think they should raise awareness today that I think is a very easy, actionable way to make this more is raising awareness. And so a couple ways we could raise awareness is we could have a bike safety night. Maybe after school we could have some sort of night and maybe even have people from local bike shops come in, and maybe even some people that are experts in the neighborhood could come in and help people map out a safe way to bike or walk to school. So the student can work with that person and they could here's the sidewalks, here's that, or maybe even meet and greet with the crossing guards and stuff like that. And that could be done at a low cost and I think wouldn't be too difficult. Another thing you could do is do a bike safety assembly. And so during the school day, especially the younger grades, they all love assemblies. You could do an assembly where you promote biking and walking and you promote the benefits of it. And maybe again at the assembly, you could do just demonstrations and meet and greet with the crossing guards and all that kind of stuff. And then another thing is just talking about it, because I noticed in a lot of the elementary classrooms, they've done how are we getting to school today? Who's busing? And who's busing and who's taking a car? But a lot of times there's not really much of an emphasis on the walkers and the bike riders. So I think the teachers can just be like, raise your hand if you bike to school today, raise your hand if you walk to school today, and just emphasize that more throughout the building and maybe put up posters. And then of course our social media. So just getting the word out there, because I think I've talked about before that one of the things about this is once more people bike and walk to school, then you guys won't have to do anything and it will just be contagious, and then people will start biking and walking to school because they realize that it's safe and it's fun and it's more effective. Because personally, some of the buildings I've biked to, it's actually faster than driving and more enjoyable. So that's all. I will continue to speak about this and just promote awareness that biking and walking to school is safe and enjoyable and great, and I think it should be promoted among students and staff in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, up next we have Rodolfo Palma. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. Is Rodolfo here?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Hi, my name is Rodolfo, and I'm here to speak on the student schedule issue. I'm a St. Louis alum, 95, and a Michigan alum, and also a father in the district. My wife and I have 5 kids. 3 are in college, 1 is in high school at the park, and 1 more is 5 years old, and we're looking to enroll her into kindergarten next year. She's a fireball of energy. And the reason I'm here is because I care more, there goes my screen. I care more about her free, unstructured play than I do about any other subject when she gets to school. My wife and I's 5 kids have gone to a variety of different schools, including schools here at the district where they essentially had metered recess at P-CCS. And the time allotted was never enough. 2 of our kids, though, went to schools where there was at least an hour of recess, and we found that those settings were where kids learned best. Those kids never lost their love of learning and never learned that school was a punishment or a bore. So I found that schools where teachers were given much more freedom and less guidelines, and where students also had that freedom and less guidelines, were the best schools for the kids. Our students learned from having the freedom through free, unstructured play that they can't learn anywhere else. I understand that this proposed schedule was written as a guide, and it's dressed in the language of letting our teachers and experts have the freedom to do as they will, but that's not what it is. Having recommendations that ask for only 20 minutes of recess means that teachers understand that free, unstructured playtime is deprioritized, that it's only a tiny part of the day. We should have recommendations instead that prioritize free unstructured play, because that is more important than all of the other subjects on the calendar. My kid will learn math and science and languages in due time. One of my kids was a very, very late reader, and now she's going to school in London. And she graduated with a 4.0. But they won't learn how to manage their freedom and the responsibility that comes with that freedom, and the creativity and the beauty of being alive, without having sufficient unstructured free play time. I applaud the work of the Elementary School Program Strategic Goal Committee on the matter, but as an incoming parent, I believe that you have missed the forest for the trees. I hope you reconsider your recommendations and increase the time allotted for recess and unstructured free play. That is more important than any test score, classroom, or other pedagogical time in the school day. And as someone who lives in the district, I know that parents are looking at what the test scores are. That's not us. I'm looking for things like, what's going to really allow my kid to grow their freedom, to experience themselves within a community of others, to learn how to negotiate things, to have conflicts and to grow from that. And that can be done in the classroom, but that really needs to have a place where the kids can just be kids, because there's no other places like that. They can't it's too easy to put them on a screen. It is what it is.
Okay, thank you. Up next, we have Darren Silverston. Oh, Sylvester, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just 20
Looks like it looks like an N. Hi, Mr. Sylvester. Come on up.
Do you have it?
Do we have any elementary principals still here? Thank you very much. Thanks for all you do. I loved elementary school. I looked forward to it. I enjoyed it. I went to 2 different elementary schools. I looked forward to field trips. I looked forward to special speakers. I remember Mr. and Mrs. Hulsing came in to speak to me. And I look forward to recess. And I think over the course of this time, we probably needed 2 recesses just to make sure that we could pay attention the rest of the way. I watched the audit. People were dipping back here. And I'm not a 4-year-old in early 5s. I'm just like, you just need some time, and you need to do it. So Dr. Lilly spoke specifically of being a vessel. I'm a 28-year teacher who's retired from the district, so I no longer have any fear of coming up here and saying exactly what I think. So I'm going to do it for other people who do have that fear that if they come up here, there's going to be retributive behavior that's going to be for them. So there's 6 elementary school teachers. The district's response to parents has been that they haven't heard complaints from teachers, but it's important to note that this wasn't presented as this was presented as a mandate to us. We will get in trouble if we question it. They never surveyed us, but if they did, no one would be in agreement. The children need their recess from a Plymouth teacher, all elementary. Canton teacher. The time spent at recess is extremely valuable to the student's social growth and development. Time interacting with peers, problem solving, and free time to play is invaluable. The fact that we have 30 kids in the classroom all day with little space for any kind of activities where they have an opportunity to move around adds to the need for more time on the playground, not less. This shortened recess is not supported by any teachers that I've spoken to within my building. A Canton teacher, another Canton teacher. No, not only is longer recess better for students, it is also better for the teacher. Teachers want their students to be engaged, not squirrely in their seats. It gives them a chance to see their kids outside the classroom and to see a different side of him or her. 10 minutes more of instruction of a day already riddled with it won't make a difference, but 10 more minutes of recess will. Plymouth teacher. While many theories and opinions can vary in the field of education, the fact that play is crucial to children's cognitive and social development is undisputed. Please prioritize unstructured play in the classroom and out. Canton teacher. As a teacher, I can't stress enough the importance of 30-minute recess for our elementary students. This is not just a break from the classroom. It is essential to their physical health, social development, and cognitive well-being. During recess, children have the opportunity to engage in active play, which helps them recharge and return to the classroom ready to learn. It is also a critical time for them to develop important social skills and develop and build relationships with their peers. Prioritizing this valuable time is a key to fostering a well-rounded educational experience for our young learners. Lastly, another Plymouth teacher. Recess is such an important time of the day for all children. It provides an opportunity to take a break from academic demands and encourages children to engage in physical activity with their peers while enjoying some fresh air. Recess also, so that's what I would hope we would take a look at. As someone who had to deal with punitive behavior last year, it's important to know that they're afraid of it. So I can say it for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Up next, we have Sarah Tebben.
Hi, my name is Sarah Tebben. I am the parent of 2 students at Smith Elementary, as well as a high school teacher of 17 years. I am very concerned about this plan to reduce recess by 10 minutes. And I know it was mentioned that 20 minutes has always been the expectation, but I have had a student in the district, in elementary, for 5 years, and it's always been 30 minutes for her. I think it's a bad proposal. I think, if anything, we need to be increasing the amount of time our students spend in free play at school. A quick glance at research bears this idea out. Moreover, research shows that recess increases learning and helps classroom management. The district has emphasized SEL learning in the years since COVID. Teaching kids about SEL is admirable, but recess allows them a space to put these concepts into real practice. To use an analogy, to teach kids to ride a bike, it's not enough to just talk about riding a bike. They actually have to ride the bike. The learner has to do the things that we talk about. So an essential read on this with a lot of research in it is The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, recently published and on the New York Times bestseller list. I encourage everyone who works with children to read this eye-opening book. In free play, children learn to work together, regulate their emotions, handle challenges, be leaders, take risks, and build confidence. As a high school teacher of 17 years, I am seeing unprecedented levels of anxiety, social withdrawal, and lack of social skills in my classes. I believe strongly that free play can play a big role in changing this trajectory for the students whom we chose to spend our lives serving. We all want to increase academic achievement. However, I urge the board to research the effectiveness of recess in doing so, especially for our youngest learners. Reducing achievement gaps is our goal, but we need to do it in a developmentally appropriate way. The benefits of recess are supported by research. And as Mr. Sylvester said, what do our district's elementary teachers think about this? Dr. Lilly mentioned that they are the professional experts, but it's my understanding that they have not been formally asked or polled. Unfortunately, families are leaving our district, as we saw in the slide. Many are choosing to homeschool or other options for their children. As a champion of public schools, I think a wonderful selling point of public school is the opportunity for kids to do the most valuable work of childhood, play, with a diverse group of other kids. Elementary schools bring those opportunities to grow confidence and belonging. What a talking point that could be for our public schools. Plymouth Canton can be a leader on this issue. I'm asking for your leadership and support. Please stand up for the at least 30 minutes of recess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Up next, we have Chanel Talbert.
Hi, I am a parent at Smith Elementary, and I have 2 children in there, 2nd grade and 4th grade. And something that I just wanted to bring up is that it seems like you guys don't have that much control over the schedule. And I appreciate that information. I appreciate those standing up for the difference in structured play versus free play, because there's a huge difference. As a parent who has children who have diagnosed anxiety and OCD, and as research shows that more and more kids younger are having anxiety and issues that come with mental health disorders, it is important that my children have the opportunity to have free play. To them, sitting in a classroom for hours at a time, 7 hours, 6 hours at a time, is very hard for them, even with structured play implemented. Structured play creates a great way for learning and to do hands-on learning, and research shows that. However, for kids with anxiety, mental health disorders, it is a lot for them. They are always on, their brain is always thinking, and even if it's not expressed outward, like you would see with a child with autism or ADHD, it is there, and it is a struggle, and as a parent who has to see the effect of that, it's even harder. And I will say our school goes above and beyond to support my children and gives them adequate breaks already with the recess that we have now, and that is just to get her to achieve what we want her to achieve at school, for her not to come home and have a complete breakdown because she's trying to hold it together. So I really encourage those that are implementing these schedules to do a lot of research on children with mental health disorders and understanding that structured play and free play are very different, and that we need to have that free play. My kid has seen so much success socially that during recess, during afternoon recess, where she has felt like maybe she didn't have a friend, and at home we're encouraging her to talk to different people, especially if she's not getting along with someone, and she does at recess. And that's success to me, because academically she doesn't struggle. She's great. But socially, she is trying to develop that school in elementary school, and I don't think we need to take that away from them. This is where they're learning. This is where they're growing. And if we want to create a better generation, a less anxious generation, it will be allowing them to have more free play, not structured play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tony Cornell.
Hi, so I'm a mom of a 3-year-old here in Canton. I've never been to one of these before. Didn't really know what to expect, but I'm here today again because of the schedule and the free play. And as Ms. McCoy mentioned, I didn't really know who to ask, so I messaged her directly on Facebook about it, and she let me know to come here. My daughter, I don't have any questions academically how she'll be. I don't worry at all. She's 3. She shows me kindergarten academic skills, no problem. She's already been in forest school for over a year and a half, and socially, she's awesome too. She plays with kids every single day when they get off the school bus who range ages 7 to 13. They play until after the lights come on, right in my front yard in our neighborhood park. And just even last year, that wasn't the norm. It took a lot of messaging parents often, trying to get everybody outside. The kids are awesome and they all get along great, but without that time unstructured together with parents way hands off, they wouldn't be able to form those relationships. I'm also a non-practicing board certified behavior analyst, and I think I've been reading a lot of the same research as Ms. Picard. And we know the benefits not only for our neurodivergent students, but also for our neurotypical students. Whatever benefits, we do extra for our neurodivergent students, those same benefits are there for our typical students. It's good for everyone. And those negotiation skills, those relationships we build on the playground, those are a skill we use in adulthood, in the workplace, in our leisure time. I have adult friends who don't know how to make friends, who don't know how to start or maintain a hobby. And in recess, you learn to find people with shared interests, find who you jive with, and roll with them for maybe the rest of your life, honestly. And that's really important, especially when we're talking about increased rates of anxiety, loneliness, and when we talk about our neurodivergent population, ideation of suicide and depression. So, yes, more recess. Instead of 12% of the day, I would recommend a minimum of 20% of the day. For kids who are reaching their academic goals, why not give an opportunity to do more? Again, my kid's not in school yet. I don't know if that's an option. But I'm one of those moms who's thinking about homeschooling, which I really don't want to do. I want to go back into work and do my own thing, but I just don't know if that's going to be in the cards for me. And I moved here from out of state for this lovely district. So I really, really want to send my kid here, and I've been excited about it for a long time.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Ginny Urick.
I brought a small stack of books with me.
I see.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ginny Urick. I am a former PCEP student. I went to Allen Elementary, East Middle School, and Salem Go Rocks. I'm also the founder of an international movement called 1,000 Hours Outside, which is built upon the premise that a child's overall well-being, their cognitive, emotional, social, and physical well-being requires ample time outside. So I am here as a voice for the children with some deep concerns about the amount of overall recess time for elementary school students in the district. I brought a small stack of books from scientists, PhDs, pediatric occupational therapists, from additional experts who, if they could be here today, would also share these same deep concerns. This is about a quarter of the books that I own, and obviously there are way more than this. The research is unequivocally clear that recess in an ample amount that's long enough to facilitate deep and meaningful play is an essential part of child development. This is because complex movements, and they've got to be outside. If you've got 30 kids, how well could we move in here? Not very well. So it's got to be outside. That complex movement, sensory experiences in nature, social interaction, they promote brain growth. It increases the blood to the brain. We release endorphins. It helps with mood and stress levels. Movement and time outdoors also improves focus and attention. They reinforce learning through physical experiences, foster social interaction, all of which contribute to better cognitive function and learning. So I thought I'm just going to share what a few of the experts are saying, so hopefully you can take that into account for the learners in the district. Dr. Peter Gray, who has spent the last 40 plus years researching child development, says this: Play is not recess from education. It is education. Children learn far more in play and with far more joy than they could possibly learn in a classroom. Playing with other children away from adults is how children learn to make their own decisions, control their emotions and impulses, see from others' perspectives, negotiate differences with others, and make friends. This is one reason why SEL learning cannot replace traditional recess. He writes, no lectures or words of advice can substitute for what children learn through play. Free play is the primary means by which children practice and acquire the physical and intellectual skills that they are essential for success in their culture. Nothing we do, no amount of toys we buy, quality time, or special training classes we give our children can compensate for the freedom we take away. The things that kids learn through their own initiatives and free play cannot be taught in other ways. And I see all over, it's on the back of the chairs, it's here, it's there, it's when I walked in the door. Learn, prepare, thrive. Kids who do not have adequate time to play throughout the school day will not learn as well. They will not be as prepared for a rapidly changing world, and they certainly will not thrive as much. Dr. Madeline Levine says play is the most efficient driver of learning for children, cognitive, physical, and emotional, but play has ceased to be a major activity of childhood. She writes, aside from being wrong on multiple levels to eliminate recess or shorten it because it affects physical, emotional, and social learning, it is mostly wrong because kids are entitled to a childhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Jennifer Voss. Nope, Jennifer's not here? No? Okay. Up next, we have Katie Bennett.
Hi guys, it's good to see you all again. For anyone who doesn't know, which I think is not many people, I'm Katie Bennett, and to the board, I did send you an earlier email today with a bunch of articles, a lot from probably the same authors that Ginny's already talking about, but I do hope you read that and understand where a lot of these parents are coming from tonight. But with that, since you have that, those articles, what I do want to do is talk about my son, Samuel. So Samuel is 4, he's in the Young Fives program, and he loves fishing, he loves swimming, he loves soccer. His favorite subject in school is innovation, and when he grows up, he wants to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Don't we all, right? Samuel's everything that is right in the world, right? He is kind, he is innocent, he is joyful, and he is why I'm here tonight. And as his mom, I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for him because when I see the new instructional guidelines, they don't align with what we know is best for Sam, especially at the age of 4. He now has the fewest minutes of outdoor recess and unstructured playtime than any of the other classes of kids before him, and then anybody else sitting in this room, right? According to the data, everyone in this room had double, if not triple, the amount of time in your elementary school day to be a kid than Samuel does, to play outside, to play with friends, and to just have fun. And do you know why? Because all the research shows that that is how kids learn best, through unstructured play where they can dress up and make pretend food and play soccer on the playground and get fights in the playground, have conflict on the playground, right? So I asked this board and I asked our district, you know, why are we pushing guidelines that are not fundamentally appropriate for development of a 4-year-old? Why do these guidelines, why are they written the way they are? Why are they set out the way they are? Per the guidelines, Samuel receives more than 5 hours of academic instruction time. I know some of you in this room haven't had a 4-year-old in a really long time, but that is a lot of instruction time for a 4-year-old, plain and simple. And to be honest, when we're cutting down recess year after year after year, my oldest in 6th grade, he had a lot more recess in this district than now Sam gets. And I ask you, like, what impact is that truly having on kids? Is this additional 10 minutes being cut out of his day of recess to add instructional time? Is that really going to matter in his academic performance? Is it? Or should Samuel have the same time for play and recess that you each had when you were a kid? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes citizens' comments. Now we're moving on to follow-up board questions. Okay, so the follow-up questions as of October 8th, we had one around the Senate Bill 568 regarding the dyslexia testing requirement. I believe that was satisfied. In board notes. And then we also had a question around the clarity on the bid threshold for purchase services.
And that will be at this week's board.
That'll be, okay, great. And then we had a couple new ones from tonight's meeting.
I think we have a couple of answers to a couple of those. Schools of choice?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how many.
There are 1,308 school of choice students currently attending, and there are 85 non-resident employee children attending as well.
So what was that first number? I'm sorry.
1,308.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we still talking about board questions?
Yep,
Yeah.
I have a
Okay.
list here too. Yep, so I captured one about the debt service. How do we compare with other districts? I think Member Ahmed had asked that. So that's something that we wanted to lift. And then Member Sadhu, you asked questions around research and best practices on recess and SEL. How do we measure that?
What does the research say?
Yeah.
And how are we aligned with the research?
Correct. And then we want data behind some of those decisions that we've been making. And then there was another question, and I can't remember who asked this, so forgive me, around how many staff members do we have in PE that are certified referees or officials, game officials?
That was also.
Okay. Oh, okay. Amina, you asked that. Thank you. Did I miss any other questions from the board today? Okay. All right. I think that's it, and that concludes our
Oh,
meeting.
wait, can I?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting this. All right.
She has been forgetting this for
I
last,
have.
so I'm not going to let her forget it.
Anupam has one more thing for our discussion purposes for the board.
I actually made a comment about this about a month ago when I was at the Capitol building meeting with legislators about some of the resolutions, some of the bills that are being passed, and we actually discussed some of this in SPA. So when people say SPA is not exciting, I will tell you, come to our SPA meetings. They're very exciting. But one of the things that was discussed was having a Senate bill that would put stricter punishments on stores that sell tobacco products. And right now, we have a lot of challenges with our students, young students, getting hold of tobacco products, vaping products. We've heard this from parents, we've heard this from kids. And so I wanted to introduce a resolution for us as a board to review and to see if this is something that we want to take up at a future meeting, to take a vote on with regard to making sure that we work with the stores that are selling to our minors, that they get stricter penalties. Because right now it's like a little slap of the wrist and saying they'll move on because the fee doesn't compare to what they're selling. So this would put them at par with how we treat alcohol products. So just to make sure that our young kids are not susceptible to getting these things at such a young age. So we'll link this resolution in our document, so if any of you want to look at it later on. But you all have it as board members, so I'd like to just have you look at it. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please send it to President Christensen and CC me on that.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting this evening at 9:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone.